It's too hot. It's too hot. This is too much. This is too much. I'm stuck to the seat. Somebody come and help me, please. This is ridiculous. It is 36 degrees where I am right now. 36. Oh my god. Okay. Hobby nightmares. First of all, this week we're going to be doing a couple of new videos on Tuesday and Thursday too. But if you like what I do, please make sure you go to the Patreon and do all that fun stuff. Do you know what? I'm just, my brain is frazzled right now. But thank you if you are one of the Astral backers. Thank you so much. These people help me out all the time. And even if they give like $1 each, it still means a hell of a lot to me. It means more to me than you could ever imagine. When you get on the ground floor of a big YouTuber, which is not me, but another one, you know, then they may give you like a little bit at the start of a video, I suppose, but I aim to do this every month where we have a nice big Astral Backers thank you screen for all of you who are helping me out on the channel as we're going. We are nearly halfway to our £750 a month target. That means I can stop looking at ad revenue. I'm extremely busy away from the channel, so I need to make it viable for me to come back and keep going. So if you like what I do, consider helping me out and getting on that too. And of course, if you are ever at a point where on your lifetime you've given more than $100 to the channel, you will be in this Legends category. Or if you do something above and beyond for me to help me out on the channel, you will also be in this Legends category. So thank you so much for helping me out. And let's carry on with some hobby nightmares, shall we? We'll be doing more sponsors towards the middle of the week. But I just thought for today, have a nice little thank you. And then tomorrow, which is Tuesday, we'll be doing another thank you video for you all. Where I'm going to give you a quick update on the state of the channel. And then on Thursday, we're actually going to talk about whether Games Workshop is killing the YouTube wargaming scene. Spoilers, it's not. For me. I don't think it is. I think that there's been a lot of hysteria about nothing, to be honest with you. But anyway, I'll be on to that in a few days. So we'll get onto that then. So Hobby Nightmares for today. Brambilla Fumagalli says, the title of this is Confessions of a Little A-Hole. We're not quite at 3 minutes yet, so I can't say it. Hello, Mr. Exile. I hope you are having an amazing day and an even better week. Well, I am, but it is also very hot, and I want to go for a run, but I'm also pretty sure I'll die of heat stroke if I do that. So, anyway, sorry in advance for my broken English. I'm from Italy, and I'm not the best at grammar. And I'm also writing from my phone at 3 in the morning. You're definitely like lying in bed on your back. Like, is it as hot there as it is over here? By the way, I'm a big fan of Italy. Being a study of Roman history, obviously, I do like Italy. Big follower of Italian football as well. Follow Fiorentina quite a lot, like them. Mainly because when I was a kid, they were the only team that wore purple, and I thought that was really cool. And Gabriel Batistuta as well, which is like the most awesome guy ever. Till he left for Roma, Judas. Anyway, I have a little hobby nightmare from my teens today. I hope you will not judge me too harshly because, as I stated, I was a dumb little piece of crap, okay? I started playing Warhammer Fantasy in 2003 at the age of 12 at a local club with a very competitive environment. I was honestly quite talented at the game and very lucky at the dice rolls, and after some months I was able to go toe-to-toe against adult, more experienced players. The fact that a local legend, an ex-Warhammer Fantasy World Champion, not sure here, but maybe he is the only Italian in the Hall of Fame, publicly stated during a tournament that I was really effing good for my age, just boosted my ego. This nurtured my competitive nature, and now, 19 years later, I'm still the kind of asshole who beat the shit out of kids during games because I play to win, not to appease them. My first army, ever, was Lizardmen, but I soon fell in love with vampire accounts, blood dragons specifically, and to this day they are my favourite army in the setting. Flash forward 3 years. I'm 15 years old, and a little dipshit with a bloated ego when it comes to the hobby. My first ever, and last, in brackets, GT, was coming, and I was so obsessed with it that my grades at school started to get worse. Because of that, I was grounded by my mother, who gave me a choice. I could skip GT for a month at the club, or I could skip GT or a month at the club, one or two. Of course, I chose to skip the club. Who needed friends anyway, when you can have the adrenaline rush of a big tournament like that? And also, it was 6 games at the tourney versus 4 at the club. My choice didn't help me in the short term, since I kept studying my army book after army book just to get ready. GT that year, 2006, was held in the lovely city of Milan. Being from northern Italy, it was only a 2.5 hours by car, but I spent the whole drive there studying tactics on my head. I think you're from Bergamo. That's me. That's Northern Exile. I think you live somewhere around Bergamo. Anyway. I was reading rules and mentally prepared myself to smash my opponents under the charge of my unrelenting blood dragons. I swear, Exile, if I had a date with Megan Fox, I wouldn't have been that determined and nervous. To this point, I had already won a couple of tournaments and some pile of skulls, but this, in my mind, was the big leagues. I could finally prove my mettle and talent against 200 plus opponents. The tourney starts. My first adversary was a member of my club, a 40-something man with no few issues. I'm not sure what his problems were, but he was not all there in the head. I crushed him 20-0. I didn't lose a single model, and I wiped him out by turn 4 completely. I visibly remember his general, the last piece on the board, being charged on all 4 fronts by my units, and him removing the priest before I could roll the dices, saying something like, "He is already dead," and me replying, "Yes, but I want to physically kill him," whilst rolling a boatload of dice under his nose. Seeing the man cry after the match was the sweetest feeling my 15-year-old self had ever felt. You know, I'm going to jump in here, you know what I'm going to say. This is why people don't like tournaments. You know what I mean? Anyway. And by the way, I know full well that not everyone that goes to tournaments is like this. I say this in every video, but people don't seem to get get the message. I know. But I hear far more bad stories in tournaments, even away from Hobby Nightmares. So people aren't doing this for attention. These are in general conversations when I go to hobby stores. I hear far, far, far more negative stories than positive ones. Even if I ask for a positive one, I will get a positive one with a, slant on it. Anyway. I win the next game as well. And here we come to the last match of the day. And let me introduce my opponent. Alright. This might get interesting. So you've played 5 games so far, right? Okay. So we've skipped over a few, but that's okay. Nobody knew my opponent's name in my circle. He was simply called Little Lecce, after his father, Lecce. The most abrasive and unremarkable person I have ever met, and openly self-declared fascist of the new millennium. Oh my god. See, I really don't want you to win, because, you've been acting like a little shit, but, oh dear. Alright, Little Lecce was a couple of years younger than me. Renowned in the southern Italian tournament circle to be really fucking good for his age, and obsessed as much as me with his army, Skaven, to the point of caressing his pieces every single time they did something even remotely meaningful, saying, "Good little mouse," in his best squeaky Skaven-like impression. Do you know there are certain turns of phrase that make me know full on that this is not a made up story, because we all know hobbyists like that, just these fucking weirdos, just like oh my god. Okay. To this point of my life, I had discovered the writings of Karl Marx. Oh no, stop. Every time I think this is just the worst it can be, you go even further. Before you say something, no, I've already said it. Go fuck yourself. Before you say something, it was a phrase. I'm still a lefty, but not a commie anymore. And also despised Southerners, okay? Yeah, Italians tend to do that quite a lot. Like, Northerners hate Southerners. They're very like the English in that way. I realised that Lecce was not an opponent like any other. Younger, Southerner, obsessed with an army I didn't like at all, good at the game, and with a fascist father. He was me, but twisted. He was me, but evil. Nah, well, this is the thing, right? This is how left and right look at each other. He's just evil. No, he's basically you, my friend. You know, a far righty and a far lefty are basically the same person. Sorry. A lot of people are going to be really butthurt by that, but you basically are. You know, you're into the same shit. You may differ on a few key points, but your attitudes towards, you know, spreading your vermin-like ideologies are basically the same, you know. You know, talking people down, insulting people, doxing people, whinging, rending your garments when people... Yeah, that kind of thing. Go fuck yourself. Get in the sea. If I remember correctly, Skavens were a little overturned at the time, and I was worried. A little overtuned, sorry, at the time, and I was worried. Really worried to lose this match, so my mood was really sour even before starting. He was my nemesis, and I knew he felt the same. At the table, we didn't shake hands. Oh, fucking hell. There was no time for small talk or anything else. We just asked questions about the respective armies whilst mocking each other's with the subtlety of the young teenagers that we were, and then waited in silence for the referees to give the signal to start the game. My plan was simple but effective. I was going all in with the offense, trying to close the gap between me and the Skavens as quickly as possible, trying to sacrifice all of my infantry to charge my heavy cavalry from all sides and get rid of his artillery. The first couple of turns were a fucking massacre, with little Lecce going on and on and on about his good little mice. At least 10 times every single turn. We kept checking each other's meters whilst measuring, and we got each other's multiple times trying to cheat, half an inch here and there to have an advantage. So you're catching each other as you're going. Wow, this sounds like a really relaxing game, man. When I finally made contacts with my units, I roared in a laughter and started mocking him back, calling my lord good little vampire in a zombie-like voice. The following turns went slower, and the battle was finally decided my way. We went full-on competitive teenagers, mocking each other at every move and dice roll. Yeah, this sounds like the game from hell, man. Why are you even in the hobby if you're doing shit like this? The already slim facade of sportsmanship crumbled soon after, and we straight on started insulting and yelling at each other, and we got reprimanded multiple times by the refs. Yeah, no shit. By the time our last turn rolled on, a small public of players and refs had gathered, dumbfounded and a bit amused from seeing the two little gremlins swearing and yelling at each other from the respective sides of their table, like their lives depended on the game. The room fell silent while we counted points. It was a minor victory for me. I smirked, receiving only a glance filled with hatred from little Lecce, who then started debating with the ref about me being a cheater who doesn't know how to play. The referee made the wise choice to not get in an argument with any angry 13-year-old, and just mumbled something on the line of, "It is what it is," and bailed. But I wasn't done. Of course you weren't. I wanted to add insult to injury. He was my nemesis, after all. Yet this is just, like, yo, little far right dickhead and little far left dickhead. Like, good lord. I must have the last laugh. I must always push it too far, you know. Whilst packing our models, I decided to get to his side of the table for a handshake. With an arrogant look on my face, I walked to my opponent, outstretched my hand, and when he tried to grab it, moved it away to fix my hair and said, "Eat shit, good little mouse." It was the straw that broke the camel's back, and his reaction was honestly well deserved. He started shrieking and crying, yelling insults, and I stepped back, suddenly scared by this kid. "Fuck you, you asshole son of a bitch," he wailed, grabbing my carefully painted vampire lord and necromancer and throwing them against the wall. Now, if anybody deserved this, it's you. Right? You know my stance on shit like this. I do not touch somebody else's models, but you've broken me with this. Like, your behaviour in this has been absolutely diabolical. So is his, by the way. But for you to take it, I literally called you out for nearly taking it too far, or taking it too far last time. And just like all far left and far right people, they always want to take it that little bit far. You can't apologise to these people. Do you know what I mean? This is what it's like. You can't apologise to them. They're not after the apology. They're after your grovelling. That's what they're after, right? This is exactly... It's almost like you're expecting him to shake your hand and be like, "Yeah, you're a better player." You know, like you're living in this fantasy world, or you were at least. I froze for a second, ready for a fight, and for a moment I was ready to grab his army and throw it to the floor, but I kept it cool. I just waved my hand to the ref table and called them. They scolded him for what he had done, and of course I denied his accusations of mocking him, and as the ref said, even if it was true, it does not justify throwing another player's minis to the walls. He was therefore disqualified from the tournament and denied entry for the next one. Whilst picking my vampire lord up, I could stop myself from smiling. Good little vampire, I said, assessing the damaged paint. My nemesis was defeated. At the end of the tournament, I ended up 9th out of 199 players, and in my book, it's a resounding success for a 15-year-old at his first grand tournament. I sadly dropped the hobby not even a year later. Yeah, what a surprise! What a surprise! Do you know why you dropped it, man? You give another reason after this, right? I'm going to tell you now why you dropped it, and it's not the reason you're about to tell me, because I've just read the next sentence. The reason why you dropped the hobby is because you're not a real hobbyist. That might sting, but at the time, you were not a real hobbyist, and that's why you dropped the hobby. Even competitive players will look at what you were doing, and they'll be cringing in shame, right? I know competitive players; they would never dream of doing shit like this. Okay? You were not a real hobbyist. You were a bully who'd found an outlet. That's what you were, and that's why you dropped it. Okay? You then go on to say, you dropped it not even a year later. And then you say, I discovered the joys of sex. While 7th edition was releasing, which I hated wholeheartedly, so I simply lost my interest. I'm going to take your word for it on that one, but somebody who acts like that at a tournament isn't getting laid. That is some big ass, small dick energy right there. Only a couple of months ago, I felt the urge out of nowhere to buy miniatures, and I am now building my Alpha Legion army for Horus Heresy. My Adeptus Sororitas of 40k, and I'm about to start my first ever League of Blood Bowl at my local game store with my Dark Elf team. Go repeated offenders. Okay. Now that I've grown up, I feel ashamed for that game, but I can't stop smiling thinking about the two teenagers yelling and mocking each other's models for almost 3 hours straight because of a stupid game we both loved so much. Well, at least you've learned your lesson. I'm looking forward to play Old World when it comes out, and I'm worried about how GW will stop me from playing my beloved Blood Dragons miniatures. And, if Little Lecce is listening, I would love to play a game with you when it releases. I'm still a competitive person, but after 16 years I'm not a little shit anymore, and would love to shake your hand. Thanks for reading my confession, and keep up with the wonderful work. I'll keep listening and smiling at the terrific and amusing stories everyone has. So, I'm very glad that you've learned your lesson, and you're a bit older now, which, you know, with experience comes knowledge, and with knowledge comes a more reasonable outlook, in my opinion. So, well done to you for becoming a better person. And I would actually say now, you're a hobbyist, my friend. Congratulations, you've become a hobbyist. Back then, you weren't in the hobby, right? That's not what the hobby is. If both players are not having a good time, you're not a hobbyist. You're just some guy who's picked up some models and is using it as an outlet to bully other people, right? I know that because your very first game, you made somebody really upset, and you were really happy about it. So, you know, I faced people like that in the past, right? And my only recourse is to just say honestly to them whenever it happens, listen, you're not going to get any more games. You know? People are not going to want to play games with you because you're just a bit of a prick. And at least you learned. That's all I'm going to say. At least you learned. But, you know, I do take the getting laid thing with a pinch of salt. Because, you know, the behaviour that you were exhibiting is not getting laid behaviour. Just put it that way. Anyway, Duke Leto says, hello again, Northern, and my fellow Hobby Nightmare enthusiasts. I heard you comment on one-page rules the other day, and I thought I'd share an interesting tussle I had on the topic. Yeah, so I'm going to be going over one-page rules probably either this weekend or next week. I'm currently doing a few emails back and forth with the guys who wrote it, and so we're getting a little bit of getting it from the horse's mouth, shall we say, about why they made it, how they made it, and you know what it's meant to be used for. Because I've never played it. I've read the rules though; they do seem very, very interesting. Alright, so. Not long ago, I agreed to meet a newfound gaming friend at a local game store to run a demo game of the one-page rules Grim Dark Future. We are both older gamers who grew up playing 2nd edition 40k, but now just want to push toy soldiers around the table, roll some dice and blow shit up. Who knew that after 25 years of saving my 40k armies in the attic, I'd be back in the hobby? That's always nice to hear. I got there early and began setting up my 3-dimensional industrial terrain that utilises remote colour LEDs under the catwalks to create some very cool ambience. Search my name, Duke Leto, in the Discord and you'll see some pics. Anyway, my friend hadn't arrived, and sure enough, I started getting some interested eyes peering over my terrain. One fella in particular was up my arse, asking all sorts of questions about the board and how I had crafted it. Let's call him Techno Viking, because I don't know his name, and that's probably the most apt description given the neck beard, sunglasses, and trench coat. Anyway, I could sense Techno Viking getting agitated as he then saw the 2nd edition models I intended to use. He stammered to say, You can't use those models to play 40k, you aren't following the rules. I said, relax, we were just going to play some Grim Dark Future, so it's all good. He scoffed and walked off, and proceeded to set up his own game on a table across the room. I didn't think much of it as my friend had arrived and we set up our forces. Battle Brothers versus Alien Hives. By this time we had quite a few onlookers, especially kids, who came to check out our glow-in-the-dark table. A few eyebrows perked as I explained to some folks that we were playing the simplified version of 40k. I even gave a printed copy of the rules to one of the kids to take home. Halfway through our game, Techno Viking strolled over, clearly not having started the game with his opponent. Of course he hasn't, yeah, because it takes that long to set up a game of 140,000. You're probably almost finished by now. I could see his Khorne Space Marines army set up across the room, of which it was only halfway painted. I couldn't even decipher what faction his opponent was playing, because there were so many grey models. Remember, I'm the guy who doesn't like to play or go against unpainted models. So taking shit about rules from a guy with unpainted mod armies really had me miffed. Techno Viking proceeds to unload on me about how one-page rules is poor man's 40k, quote-unquote, and it's plagiarism. I gave him my 2 cents on why it works well for me, but nothing was good enough for this guy. I tried to point out the positives, but his comebacks were always negative. I'd say it's quick, he'd say it's baby 40k. I'd say it's free. If I'm huffing and puffing, it's because I hate people like this. I'd say it's free and doesn't require you to buy new rules and models every month. He'd say it's plagiarism and divergent from the law. I'd say it's easier to follow and lets you focus on battlefield tactics more. He'd say there's no list building fun. The more his comebacks are actually driving me towards one-page rules. That's amazing. Like, this Techno Vikings comeback's actually making me want to play this now. I'd say it's actually more balanced. He'd say it's ruining the hobby, and without GW, there wouldn't be a hobby. I agree with him on that one, but at the same time, well, not on the hobby, but I agree with him that we wouldn't have Warhammer, definitely, but like, not the hobby. Finally, I realised I was stooping down to his level, and it was a pointless effort. I rolled my eyes and told him to bugger off. I could see him talking shit with the other players on his half of the room. Needless to say, we finished our game before Techno Viking was even through with his second turn. We each bought some more paint supplies to thank the store owner and packed up our shit. He proceeded to tell me that they don't normally allow games to be played he doesn't sell, i.e. one-page rules, but he made an exception for us on account of the cool board. Needless to say, I haven't been back to the store since. Yeah, no worries, man. I completely understand why. I know one-page rules are getting controversial, but I gotta tell you, Northern, I am baffled by all the bullshit you and the 40k community still tolerate from Games Workshop. A company that seems to have sold its soul to the devil years ago and treats its customers like dog shit. But I do feel there is room in this hobby for both types of players. So do I, my friend, so do I. I agree that 40k lore is extremely rich, and this can't simply be copied or ignored. I also realise that some people love to game, quote-unquote, the meta and collect the many rulebooks. But let's be honest, there's a lot about one-page rules that are worth considering, that we should all celebrate as consumers. There is way more to this hobby than Games Workshop's intellectual property. Cheers and God bless the work you are doing, Northern. I completely agree. I completely agree. There's tons of room in the hobby for more than one type of player, as far as I'm concerned. And, you know, you're doing a terrific job in doing just that. I'm very, very, very happy that you enjoyed it. And if it means anything to you, this has now got me to the point where I need to play this now. I need to figure out a way to play this. Because I'm already sucked into Kill Team, cause it's so more simple, you know? And the game doesn't slow down to a fucking crawl with all the stratagems. So I might have to go and play some one-page rules. I know what I'm like, though. I would like to, like, add stuff to it. You know what I mean? Because it's only one page. I'd be like, okay, so how do the Astral Blades fit into this? Do you know what I mean? And that's what I would try and do. I'd try and be like, okay, well, we've got this special rule and that special rule. And if I'm playing it against another opponent, I'd say, hey, you go and give yourself some special rules and we'll play some one-page rules. But anyway, I love the one-page rules. I can't wait to play them. And we'll see how it is. But I'm also really looking forward to playing Horus Heresy too, the new one. Anyway, Caiaphas says, call me Caiaphas, please. I already am. Hey, Northern and all. Today, I have a good hobby story for you all. This story takes place over a few years, so expect some time skips, okay? Sorry, it's hot. I need to take a drink. So, I've always struggled with bullying, and that's led to long-term depression. This is how hobbies, in this case Yu-Gi-Oh!, have helped me through this. So, back at the start of 2019, at the peak of my depression, I'm very sorry to hear that, I bought a Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck to mess around with. I don't know why I did. I just bought a deck I liked the look of. This led to me going to local tournaments and I started to pick up wins. Over a few months, more specifically in the summer, I actually found myself enjoying those Saturdays I'd get to go to locals and see the friends I'd made along the way, and who I would be facing. It's probably the first summer I can look back on and say, hey, that was a blast. That's really cool, I love that. Fast forward to early 2021, post-pandemic. I was feeling pretty shitty again. I'd moved to a sixth form with completely new people. Sixth form, to those of you who don't know, is like the finishing years of high school in the US. So I wasn't being bullied anymore, but the scars were still there. I was close to quitting the game and just focusing on my social life outside of the game, and started selling off cards. Okay, well that's fine. You know, you can do whatever you want. You don't need to be going crazy. Okay. This is when one of my best friends, let's call him C, intervened and talked to me. I told him how I felt, which was massive for me at the time, and he told me to play an online event with him. I'd already won my invite to that event, I just didn't feel like playing it at the time. He sent me a meta deck, probably my favourite of all time now, and we got to testing it. I managed to learn the deck over a week. The deck was really complex, with fairly obscure plays, and topped the event. My first event top. I was overjoyed, to say the least. C was really happy for me too. After lockdown, I spent the rest of the year until November playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Religiously, and can honestly say, despite world events and shit in 2021, it was one of the best years of my life. That's awesome, man. Now, let's go to about a week ago, early July at the time of writing this. After exam stress, I was naturally feeling pretty shit. I just didn't know what to do with myself, and I'm also incredibly out of practice when it comes to the game. Long story short, I had a mental breakdown at locals. Instead of being looked at weirdly or anything like that, one of my friends, let's call him L, pulled me aside, and well, I just let my heart out. It's why I'm comfortable telling you about all this now. The friends you make in these hobbies are fucking incredible when you find the right crowd, and it's what makes playing these hobbies so worth it. I know some of you guys may not be as close to your hobby friends as you might like, but I can guarantee they'll welcome you with open arms. Hope you read my little love letter to my local community. All the best, Caiaphas. Brilliant, man. I love it. I love every single thing about it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for writing that. I have nothing to add. Please take Caiaphas's advice and come onto the Discord and make sure you're having a nice chin wag with us. Ed Talley says, "Hi, O wise and noble exile of the North. It's Ed, first time sender. I have to say, Ed is dyslexic, so if I can't read this properly, it's because it's a bit jumbled up. That's fine. I have a somewhat hopeful story for you today. For any and all the guys, a couple of years ago now around... For any and all the guys. A couple of years ago now, around early 2017, I started dating my partner. She loves painting and building models. In summer of that year, me and her went into our local Warhammer shop in the Leeds store together to pick up a small mail order and some paints and an Archanaut Company box set to glue and paint up. While I was looking at the paints to get my partner started, talking to sorry, again, not my fault. When I was looking at what paints to get my partner, I started talking to a staff member, and she asked, "Do people like me get into these sort of things?" Okay, this is really hard to read because there's no punctuation at all. And she started. Okay, while I was looking at what paints to get my partner, started talking to a staff member, and she asked, "Do people like me get into these sort of things often?" Essentially, he replied, "From my experience, most women get into this hobby, get into it for the books, building models, and painting them, than they do playing." I have a couple more stories to say if you want to. Sorry for this email. I got is worded badly. I got dyslexia. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so this person has got into a games workshop and has asked, do women get into the hobby? Or as Mrs. has asked, do women get into the hobby? And the guy has said, yeah, but they mostly don't do the gaming part, they do all of the other bits as well. I mean, that's fine, but I'd also say, from a point of view of the person in the store, if you're a staff member and you're saying that to somebody, that's a pretty shitty thing to say to a girl who's just come in and said, hey, are normal people are people like me, like females, like ladies, in the store? Are they here? I don't see any. And then you just say, nah, most of them don't do gaming, they just do like painting and books and stuff. Well, don't say that, just say, yes. Just say, yes. And then just smile. Just that's it. Yes. Yes, many, yes. There are many ladies in the hobby. Where are they? And then you say, I don't know. Maybe we scared them. No, don't say that. Don't say that. Just say, I don't know. They're not here today. But you're here, though. You're a lady. You're in the store. Good God, there are better ways of going about it than that. Anyway. Wolflord is back again. And he has written what I can only describe as his thesis of Hobby Nightmares. Don't worry, I won't be going on all of them at this time. Before I go into it, though, he has what can be described as a self-confessed cringe, and it's self-confessed, cringe list of the types of women that are in these stories. Alright, so he has three categories. He has cute girls, he has beautiful women, and hotties. Alright, so a cute girl would be somebody like, what he says is Erin Moriarty, the girl who plays Starlight in The Boys, right? That would be cute. Beautiful would be Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, and hotties would be Megan Fox in her prime. That's what he said, right? And that's just to give us some sort of idea of what he's talking about when he goes into his his stories here. So his first story, we're not going to read all of them. These will be spread out, but his first story is called Mansplaining Gone Wrong. Alrighty. He says, this story happened during a confrontation tournament at around 2004 that was taking place during a bigger convention. Now, I should mention at this point that tabletop gaming in Germany is, and very much was back in the day, a really niche kind of hobby. Far less common than it was in Britain or maybe the US. So, bigger tournaments and conventions were very rare and heavily dominated by GW stuff. Therefore, our confrontation tournament, what there was a special thing. Girls in the hobby were so extremely rare at the time that people only dared to whisper about them like a myth, a thing of pure nerd imagination. So, you can understand how baffled we all were when, out of nowhere, a real cutie showed up with her Wolfen army to play. This girl was in her early 20s, about 5'3", so pretty short, small waist, nice boobs, with a tight but not slutty shirt, black hair, a bit on the goth side but not too much metal in her face, and a wonderful smile. Okay, alright, cool. Nice looking girl, okay. So, as I described, she was attractive but not intimidating. So, unfortunately for her, That meant every single neckbeard who played against her tried in one way or the other to hit on her. Yeah, you know, I went for a date last week. This is me now, speaking. I went for a date with a self-avowed feminist last week. And when I say feminist, I was pretty alarmed by that until we got talking, and I went, oh, you're one of those 1960s feminists. That's fine. And then that was fine. I actually said to her, you know, are you aware that every man who's not related to you, who's been nice to you since you were 14, has been trying to fuck you? And she just burst out laughing. And I was like, no, I'm being deadly serious. And she was like, really? I said, yes. Yes. Every man who's been nice to you since you were 14, unless he was gay, or you know, asexual, but every man who's been nice to you, who is you know, straight, since the age of 14, who's not related to you, has been trying to fuck you. And I probably bet you at least one or two of the ones who are related to you, as in cousins and shit, have tried to fuck you as well, trying to fuck you as well. Because that's just how men are. We are dirtbags at the end of the day. You know, but at the same time, you know, I wouldn't say I'm a male rights activist or anything like that, but I'm definitely on the male side. You know what I mean? I'm definitely one of those people who tries to make sure that the mental health of men is protected, because we are the you know, the what was it, 89% of all suicides are male. You know, we're the ones who need protection from that shit, and people don't seem to want to admit that or talk about it because it's not convenient. Well, fuck you, I'm talking about it. Get in the sea. But yeah. So when people do stories like this, please don't sit there and think, oh, you know, that's rubbish. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen as much as people think it does. No, it does, mate. It does. It does. It is one of the sad facts of life that, you know, we're men and we want to have sex. Like, it just is what it is. To which, to be fair to her, and this is where I was like, oh, I like this girl. She said, wait, and does that include you? And I was like, we're on date. Of course it includes me. You know, like, so, anyway. Moving on. Since I fell victim to my own power gaming here by smashing almost all of my opponents, and though, mate, if this story ends up with you getting a round of applause, I'm not reading any more of these stories. Just saying. Since I fell victim to my own power gaming here by smashing almost all of my opponents and therefore not ever facing her because she dropped out earlier, I had to watch from the sides, but to be honest, I would have blown it anyway. Guy number 1 did the usual but harmless geek move. Stare at her, look away as soon as she looks back, smile like an idiot, and then expect a blowjob and a wedding ring. Yeah. This story happened. I've gone from being like very skeptical to like, yeah, either this guy knows exactly what it feels like to be a nerd in these situations, or like, you know, this actually happened. Of course, afterwards he complained about girls only caring for douchebags. Classic stuff. Yep, that all checks out. It checks out. Guy number 2 decided to go full creep. He started by making compliments on her quite good paint jobs, and then said something that would translate into, I also really like the paint job you did on your face. He proceeded later on with pointing at one of his female Celtic warrior models, who of course had exaggerated breasts, and went, guess she is no longer the one with the really big ones around here, eh? Oh my god. Oh. Soul dying. To this day, I was impressed by how she just rolled her eyes and ignored him. Unfortunately, that jerk also had a pretty power gaming army and crushed her, so her third and last games were not going to end up far down the roster. Now, guy number 3 was truly a neckbeard among neckbeards. I like to call those double necks. Sorry. Double necks. He even had the fedora, and of course, you could smell him from afar. This guy had the genius idea to explain everything he was about to do like she was a complete idiot. I guess this was his way to show dominance, which was all the more embarrassing since they were both battled over for lower places in the tournament, and this guy was simply not nearly as bright as he thought he was. I remember talking to him about wanting to study history, and he replied, man, I should have gone to uni too. Yeah, I'm sure he would have done very well when he was there if he'd have gone to university. You know. Oh, God. I am such a wizard when it comes to history. Like, especially the Middle Ages, you know, like Napoleon and stuff. To this day, this grinds my gears more than it should. Yeah. Yeah. Well, to come to the point, Karma had my back on this one, since I had the opportunity to listen to his demise up close. At this point, his orcs had killed her big character Wolflord. So sad, my namesake. A lot of her warriors were wounded, and one of them was also far away from the rest, which is really bad since, as I told you, Wolfen are very elite, with very few models, and orcs are not. Guy number 3. Well, girly, Madken in German? Madken? I don't know. Well, girly, I guess this does not look good for you, does it? Girl, we will see. Guy number 3. Remember when I advised you to not scatter your minis too much? This is why. Silence followed, which seemed to infuriate him. Guy 3. Really, you should listen to experienced players more often and learn from your mistakes. Like when you had your Wolflord jump into this group before, that was just suicide. Then the girl made her next move, during which she would only move the one far away model, but instead of moving him to help his brothers, she moved him even further away. Girl, you are correct, that was suicide by my Wolflord, but you know what? It also kept all your archers busy, right? Guy 3, so what? Girl, so you have no chance anymore to stop this one Wolfen at your side of the board, since he moves way faster than your orcs, right? Guy 3, well, no. I think at this point he finally connected the dots and realised what was about to happen. Girl, so since I chose the admittedly rather rare mission card, the Messenger, my only objective is to get one of my models to your side of the board, which, if my girly brain isn't playing tricks on me, means I just won. The double neck then just packed up his army and left. No more words have spoken by him, and all was good with the world. How I wish I'd been a little older and more confident to talk to her. Well, at least, you know, this isn't bullshit as a story. Thank you very much for not saying that you went over there and, ended up having sex on the table or something. Fantastic. And do you know what? If you're Guy 3 here, the best thing to do at this point is to be like, wow, I didn't see that coming. You played me like an absolute fiddle. Well done. And then just like, let her keep her win. You're going to get positive points for that. But anyway, I am melting. And we're nearly at 45 minutes. So thank you very, very, very much for watching. And 1 second, I'm going to take a drink of water. There you go. Thank you very, very, very much for watching. And if you like what I do, please consider joining the Astral Backers. Some of them are Patreon people. Some of them are channel members. Please help me out if you can. Jump over and give whatever you can. And I have a 10 for 1 rule, which means if you can afford to give it 10 times, give it once. Alright? I'm not in the business of making sure people give me money that they can't afford to give me. That's shitty. So please, only give me, if you can afford it 10 times, then give it once. That's all. And we are halfway towards our £750 a month target. If we can get there, then I can finally just stop relying on ad revenue and just and send it away. Goodbye. Don't need to talk to YouTube anymore. I can just talk to you guys instead. So, thank you very, very much for watching. I love you a long time. We will be carrying on with our normal programming in terms of sponsorships next time around. For now, enjoy the graphic. Love you a long time, and I'll speak to you tomorrow. Have a good one.